All right, good morning. Welcome to FAWKES News. I am live to you on webcam today from the mountains of Western North Carolina. I was in Michigan all week long working on the Helene documentary over at the Foss, PHOS, the Foss Studios in Michigan. It was just an amazing time. I got to hang out with Mike the cop and everything, but now I'm back in Western North Carolina with the wife and the family. And so today's show is coming to you live from the mountains where we actually have electricity back here. Now, on my way into where we're staying at, there was about maybe a 2-mile stretch of road that was completely gone still, and the road was completely closed. And so we had to take some fire lanes and some fire trails to get up here, which was a little bit aggravating, but it looks like there are road crews out there. So Western North Carolina is still in dire straits, but coming along. At least there's electricity in most places now, and people are getting the heat that they need. Today's show brought to you by ghostbed.com/Wolfpack, and we have factormeals.com/Wolfpack50. This is one of those shows today, guys. Thank you for being in the live chats. David J, Super Bowl champion Eagles, Will Cray, Murr 530, Folk Around and Find Out. Thank you guys for being in the live chats this morning. Wazman, that's all good to see you guys. Today's one of those shows, one of these podcast episodes that you're probably going to want to save it. Go ahead and download this particular episode, because I think what we talk about today will come back. You're going to see the things that we talk about are going to come back later in the year. My Tanstradamus prediction is that the things that we're talking about right now are going to be absolutely prevalent in September, and you're all going to be like, wow, Tanstradamus, FAWKES, Fox News, they predicted this. We already saw this coming. I can say those things now because I can say them with bravado. I can say them like I know what I'm talking about, because I've proven time and time again that when you start following the rabbit trails, when you really start following the actual independent journalism and the reporting, and you read between the lines, you can actually start predicting the future. And so I'm loosely joking when I use the term Tanstradamus prediction, because I actually feel like now it is actually predictable in such a strange way. Today's episode is going to be mostly about Bill Gates going on The View. And if you haven't seen that, I'll put the link in the YouTubes. By the way, I do have Jason from One More and I'm Out of Here podcast. I'm going to bring him on to talk about it as well. Got a couple of video clips for you. But Bill Gates went on The View, and he said a number of things that I think are important for an average consumer to pay attention to. The reason why is because, again, it goes back to this predicting of the future. If you listen to what he says, and you've listened to what he said in the past, he does have this weird way of knowing things and knowing what's going to happen, what's about to happen. And plus, we can also, by watching The View and watching this interview, you can get a pulse on exactly what the far left wing is hearing and what the propaganda is that is being what is being given to them, like at a fire hose rate. If information was a hose, they are getting it at the rate of what a fire hose would distribute. And I use that loosely because Jason is with us, and again, he is a firefighter, a fire chief, Chief Keef as they call him. So I want to talk about this. I want to go into this very bizarre these statements coming from Bill Gates. I don't know, is Bill Gates just old and senile? Does he know what he's saying? Does he know what when I speak things on my podcast, or when I say things on other podcasts, like when I was up in Michigan, I always try to think very far ahead of what I'm going to say and how I'm going to say it, because people love to take what you say and butcher it, and it's very difficult. If somebody wants to manipulate your words, they're going to do that. But you would think, as somebody like The View, of something like Bill Gates, that he would be even more careful, or he would have, it's not like Bill Gates didn't know the questions that he was going to be asked far in advance. And you can tell that the people on The View didn't even write these. They didn't even come up with these questions on their own, because these questions are written in front of them. And it's almost like they're reading the questions for the very first time. And I know this because I've been podcasting for a long time. So I know that it's obvious when I'm reading something for the first time, as in, like, I procrastinated for the show, and I knew there was an article I wanted, but I put it up there and I didn't read the article first. And so I fumbled my way through it, which I try not to do anymore, but I did it in my early days. But The View still struggles with that. And that blows my mind, because they're getting hundreds of thousands of dollars. You could read the article or read the question, before the show starts. That way you don't sound like a complete moron. Is John big timing us in the chats? John is not. He'll be here at 12:30 to do our sports show, which is, they've got a lot to talk about today. And then Josh is at the VA hospital this morning with a very important dead leg type. I don't like to give up too much of Josh's information. I know he's loosey goosey on here and he talks about his dead leg, but I don't know what I'm allowed to say. Does that make sense? I don't know what he would be comfortable with me saying, but I'll just say that he has an appointment today and it has something to do with his dead leg. So anyway, let's get on today's show. I want to keep it up loosey goosey. Let me bring Jason onto the show for you guys. Welcome, Jason. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good,
are you still hungover from the Super Bowl?
No, I was at work, actually. I actually went into work instead of taking a vacation day where I normally would for the Super Bowl because I really didn't care. I ended up watching it, but so somebody.
Are you guys going to talk about today on your? Are you going to talk on your day's show? Was the viewership for the Super Bowl, was it normal or was it far below what it normally is?
They were actually saying that it was up, which shocks me, to be honest with you. But
really,
yeah, I believe we'll probably hit that.
I don't know if I believe that.
I don't know that I believe it either. Everybody that I was in the. Good.
I'm sorry, we have a delay here because I have poor internet. So I didn't mean to cut you off. I was flying home from Michigan when the Super Bowl was going on, and they had several big screens with the Super Bowl on. And one of the things that I noticed in the Michigan airport, was nobody was paying attention. Nobody was paying attention to the Super Bowl. People were on their phones. People were talking to each other. Even in the restaurant, the waitress, there was a tabletop of 6 in the airport restaurant that I ate at. And she said, let me get you a table where you can see the TVs. And the one guy said, oh, it's fine. We're not really all that interested.
And everybody, in my realm, nobody, I mean, people had Super Bowl parties. Don't get me wrong. It was a reason to gather, but everyone's like, I don't really care either way. Most of it was, I want the Chiefs to lose if they were going to watch it. So.
Right. Yeah. So there happened to be this whole thing, and I'm sure you guys are going to talk about it on your own show. Let me bring it up here really quickly. This is Taylor Swift being booed at the Super Bowl. We'll start off today with that.
Swift receiving a not so warm welcome at last night's Super Bowl. Swift trying to shake it off as many in a crowd of 65,000 people in the Superdome booed.
So you were watching did you watch the Super Bowl or not?
Yeah, I mean, we had a few runs in between, while the game was going on, but I mean, I watched most of it, even, just because I was there doing, I was at work, so might as well. And I also had some money on the game.
I'm not a sports guy, so I did not watch it. Did you notice Taylor Swift being booed? Or
oh, yeah.
When I saw all the headlines, I thought, maybe it's hyperbolic. Did it really happen? Did Taylor Swift? I mean, it looks like now that I've done all of my research, it looks like she really did get booed, obviously and clearly booed for being at the Super Bowl.
Any of those clips, it doesn't really do it justice. Like watching it on TV, it was very, very prevalent. And especially, the comparison when Trump got a standing ovation and everybody lost their minds when he walked in. So it was funny.
That I noticed that too. That Trump, that I saw all the clips of the Trump. He was also the first president to attend the Super Bowl, which I thought was bizarre. I didn't know that was true. Presidents don't go to the Super Bowl. Do they go to the World Series?
Yeah. And that's the exact same thoughts, Eric. I mean, I'm like, how in the hell? All right. So, 47th president, and he's the first sitting president to go. But yet there were, I believe, either 2 or 3 sitting vice presidents that have gone to the Super Bowl. So I didn't understand that at all. A kind of, a neat little factoid, I guess. But I just automatically assumed they all went. But you know what happens when you...
I didn't know that. When I was working with the Tailgate Legends, and we were doing a tailgate in Appalachian State right here in Western North Carolina. This was the first college game that I went to where I saw this, but we were about an hour before the game started. We were already in the stadium, which, by the way, App State has one of the nicest stadiums. I worked on that show, Drinking Bro Sports Tailgate Legends. I went to a different college campus almost every single weekend for a different game. So I got to see a lot of different college campuses. and a lot of different stadiums. And my favorite of all of them was App State. It's absolutely beautiful. The energy is electric. It's wild. An hour before the game, the place was packed. They have a grassy knoll that doesn't have seats that you can just pay like $13 and you can sit on this grassy knoll. So all the seats, the stadium was sold out, plus the grassy knoll was standing room only. And an hour before the game, everybody was chanting, "Fuck Joe Biden." Fuck Joe Biden. And now this was being aired on ESPN. And when I was telling other people about it, it didn't make national news or anything, but I thought it was pretty newsworthy because I was like, man, this is thousands of students, college students at App State, which is kind of a hippier kind of college, but this is an entire stadium. They know that ESPN is there and they are chanting at the top of their lungs, "Fuck Joe Biden," the entire stadium. It was absolutely bizarre. And they did it throughout the whole game, which I thought was really funny. So I only imagine that at the Super Bowl, the booing of Taylor Swift or the applause of Donald Trump must have been electric. And it's probably a sight to behold or to hear.
We made the joke the other day that since the Chiefs lost, and they lost pretty big, that Taylor Swift's in the process of writing a breakup song for Travis Kelce.
Yeah, there's been a lot of stand-up comedians that have addressed that, and I've seen some skits already coming out about the Taylor Swift Kelce breakup. We'll see. Again, I'm not really all that into sports, but it was a big weekend for sports. I want to touch on a couple of things here before we go into the Bill Gates thing. I know that we have this, the FBI being accused of helping out illegal immigrants and tipping them off for ICE raids. I want to talk about the importance of that and the severity of it and the seriousness of it. Of course, this is coming out of Los Angeles, so I can't say that I'm overtly shocked about it, but I am going to get into this. And then I want to talk about Trump, proposing treating Gaza as if it's some kind of construction site or just kind of some kind of construction rebuild. And so I have to know more about it. Before we get into that, though, I was in Michigan and I was working with Foss Creative Studios, and I've got a lot of news coming down the pipeline. You guys know me. And news. I can't help but talk about it. But there's some really big things coming down the pipeline with Foss Studios up in Michigan and the things that we're going to be doing and collaborating with them on. I had just an awesome time in Michigan, and I got to go see 8 Mile. But I'll say this: I was in Toledo, Ohio, rolling Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with Mike the Cop and some of the other guys over at Rudo Jiu-Jitsu, and I got to Toledo, Ohio, and the first thing I noticed that I had forgotten is how brown Ohio is. And you live in Ohio, and do you remember when I brought that up to you years ago?
Yes.
I said, Why is everything brown? Why is every single building brown? Every house is brown. All the trim is brown. Like, there is no color whatsoever in Ohio. Well, hey, Toledo, Ohio, not so different than Cincinnati, Ohio. What is y'all's obsession with the color brown? Even your football team, the Cleveland Browns.
Every time you come
Do you
up,
really, you know how depressed you guys all are? If you ever talk, what's that?
I said, every time you come to Ohio, it's either fall or dead of winter. You never come up in the summer.
But it doesn't mean, what do you guys repaint your houses in the summer?
The fact that you notice all the houses are brown is funny. It's not
crazy. It's ludicrous. Like, yes, they are. I videoed it for proof, and I put it on my Instagram, Eric Tanzi Official. I literally just seas of brown, whole neighborhoods. It was a very fancy neighborhood, very rich neighborhood. And we drove through it, and I said, God, even the millionaires in Toledo, Ohio, all still choose to have brown houses. Not one house was a different color than brown.
Toledo, to be fair, is the armpit of Ohio. Just FYI.
Boy, you're not lying. And I would say Detroit must be the armpit of Michigan, because maybe the worst city I've ever been to. I mean, I had a lot of fun working with Foss Studios and staying in their creative suites that they have there. It is really fun. It was really cool. And I did a lot of podcasts that are coming that you guys are going to get full access to, secret access to. Which are really fun. But yeah, driving around like that, I guess what they call it, South River, or Down River. Driving around there, I was like, why don't you just move? Why don't you
I'll
just move? Why
actually
don't
be
you
up in
just?
a week and a half.
Why would you want to live like that? I don't. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, it's not
Because it
pleasant.
doesn't seem like anybody likes it. It doesn't seem like anybody loves being from Michigan. It's not like they're proud to be from there.
Everybody's in a shitty mood all the time.
Yeah. And they're always like, yeah, this place sucks. This place sucks. It's gay. Everything's gay. I was like, man, it's snowing. Look at that river. It's that's fucking stupid. Like, even if you walk on the ice, probably crack. And it's like, well, why don't you just move? All right. Let me go into these articles really fast. This one's coming from Fox News. DHS security, Noam appears to accuse corrupt FBI leaking LA ICE raids. Noam says, now Noam is the Homeland Security Secretary. She says that the FBI is so corrupt, adding she will work with every agency to stop leaks and prosecute crooked deep state agents. So now we have the DHS secretary talking to us about a deep state. Do you remember, Jason, when saying things like the deep state made you a conspiracy theorist?
Oh, absolutely.
If you believed in a deep state, you were, far right.
Oh, and you were looked at like you were absolutely crazy. I mean, people is almost where people look down their nose, like you were the Looney Tune if you brought that shit up. And look at where we're at now.
So now we have the DHS security talking and openly mentioning the deep state. Department of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem called the FBI corrupt and appeared to accuse the Bureau for leaking plans of large-scale immigration enforcement plans in the Los Angeles area. By the way, Los Angeles really needs it with all the wealth of problems, fentanyl, drugs, everything that's going on in LA. The fact that LA has become a complete crap hole where multiple celebrities are talking about how it's hard to even visit Los Angeles anymore. And it's so sad to see how bad Los Angeles is getting. Now we're trying to get it to clean up in there. And the LA Times published an article Friday that said that U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, would lead the operation, focusing on those without legal status in the U.S. or who have pending orders of removal, according to internal government document review by the publication. Document was reportedly circulated among some government officials last week. The Times also reported that a federal law enforcement source who spoke on condition of anonymity for fear of reprisal said LA FBI and drug enforcement officers and agents are being called in to assist. Here's her tweet. Now, I'll have the picture to put up there for you. I'm not going to be able to do it right now because I don't have a producer here. But this is coming from Kristi Noem. She says that she puts a picture of police federal agents. She says the FBI is so corrupt, we will work with any and every agency to stop leaks and prosecute these crooked deep state agents to the fullest extent of the law. ICE sources told Fox News that they do not know where she got her information from or what it's based on. So that's a big if there. But if this is actually happening, if the FBI is tipping off ICE raids, this is a real big deal.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is a real big deal because now you're committing conspiracy to commit crimes. You're acting in a conspiracy to commit crimes. You're aiding and abetting. You're helping out. What is it? If we find out that these FBI agents have to go to jail for this, they can't just be fired for something like this. I'm thinking about if you're the ICE agent, which, by the way, I don't know how much you work with ICE agents up in Cincinnati, but where I worked in Raleigh, North Carolina, the ICE agents were majority of Mexican descent themselves.
Yeah, I mean,
and so now you're this and they believe in their cause. They believe that they got here legally. And by the way, these ICE agents, they're not just going out and breaking down the doors of construction working Mexicans who are trying to do the right thing on a daily basis. I mean, these are repeat violent offenders, felony offenders, drug offenders that are always getting hemmed up by ICE. And so now you've got these ICE agents who believe in their cause, who want to make the world a better place, and who are trying to get violent felony offenders off of the streets and out of our country. And now you're tipping off these violent offenders that they're coming. What happens when one of these ICE agents gets shot and killed because of a tip-off?
Right. And with all the the corruption that's in the government and the the deep state, with all of that that's going on, and you've got Kash Patel, who sat in a Senate confirmation hearing, who knows all of this BS, and he's going to clean house, and they are absolutely petrified. But, it's you have people that put their head in the sand also. Oh, the government wouldn't do that. Well, it's happening right in front of our freaking eyes.
Yeah. And I think it goes back much further than we even think. I think it's we're gonna
Sure.
when all this is uncovered, you're gonna have 20 years of corruption. Next thing I want to just talk about before we get into the big story, which is for me, I think the big story is this Bill Gates prediction of another pandemic. And also some of the other foreshadowing that comes from this interview that he had on The View, and just some of the misconceptions, again, that The View is putting out to the general public, and then people are regurgitating this or putting it out as if it's fact on the social media webs, which I think is hilarious. And by the way, if you're not into social media now, I can't think of a better time to get into social media because just the unhinged, psychopathic Trump derangement that we're seeing on social media is quality entertainment, in my opinion. I'm having a great time watching it. Just the opposite. It's the pendulum has swung in the complete opposite direction of where we were at 4 years ago. But here we go. Trump's Gaza proposal. This is coming from NPR. Trump's Gaza proposal has rattled the Middle East. More surprises are likely. Damascus, Syria. President Trump has already stirred up the Middle East by suggesting a U.S. takeover of Gaza and the relocation of its 2 million Palestinian residents. More drama could soon be on the way, as the U.S. president hints at, but hasn't spelled out plans for other countries in the region that include Syria, Saudi Arabia, and Iran. In the vast stone courtyard at the 8th century Umayyad Mosque, Syrian lawyer Ahmad Kassab offers a message intended for Trump. He said, Syria is exhausted from 14 years of war. We don't want any more wars. We want peace. We want to live. Like many Syrians, Kassab wants friendly relations between Syria and the U.S., putting an end to the decades of friction between Washington and the country once ruled by Bashar al-Assad and his father before him, Hafez al-Assad. Now, this is completely different than what we heard even 8 weeks ago or 9 weeks ago when we had a entire special operations units, PSYOPs units, civil affairs units being deployed. I think it was 2,000 plus being deployed to Syria. And we thought we were at imminent war with Syria 8-9 weeks ago. And now we have Syria talking about how excited they are to work with the United States. What a difference 8 weeks makes.
Very puzzling. It's very puzzling and I would love to be a fly on the wall, excuse me, of the Oval Office, of the conversations that have been had over the last, 8-9 weeks. But I don't know exactly what was talked about or what was said, but there's been a change in tune on multiple different fronts. But especially this one, yeah. I mean, to your point, we were deploying people, and now all of a sudden, now that we're like besties. I don't quite understand it, but
I'm not all bought into the rebuilding of the Gaza Strip. I understand that. What do you do now? Something has to happen, or else Gaza's never going to get better. There has to be, but it's again not our job. I don't feel like it's our job to rebuild that. I mean, why not just let Israel do its thing? If Israel wants to take over Gaza, then let it be their responsibility. Let them fight for it. If they want it bad enough, they will fight for it.
Right.
And that'll be that. But it's not, because it's just like they want the chocolate. They don't want to fight with the chocolate, but they have their big brother, the United States, that will come and get the chocolate for them at our expense. And I don't know that that's right either. So this is a hard one, because it's like I wouldn't have probably bombed Gaza off the face of the earth anyway, like they did. But they chose to do that, and now it has to be built back in some way or the other. It's almost like, this is what the plan was all along.
Well, and the United States, I mean, for as long as I can remember, is always like the big brother, as you put it earlier. But we get involved in so much crap that doesn't concern us, and we feel it's our responsibility to go do that. And I don't quite understand that. And maybe my parents, just didn't explain, government very well to me growing up, but I've never understood why, it's our problem to go help everybody else. Yes, you keep good relations.
It's not our problem. I think that's part of the lie, and I think that's part of the propaganda. Is there something else there that we want? Right? There's obviously, what the Gaza doesn't have all that much, but it is strategically. It is a strategic foothold, especially if you believe in something like the Holy Land, where you believe that Israel is the Holy Land. And so there is an advantage of having the land there. But, is this a business move by Donald Trump? I don't see Donald Trump getting us involved in foreign wars. He didn't the first time, but he also inherited a completely destroyed Gaza Strip. What do you do with it? You know what I mean? It's not like it wasn't Trump that went in there and started the war and then decided to capitalize on it. I mean, but would it be foolish? Is that just grain left on the ground if he doesn't rebuild it? Is that just, he's like, listen, I didn't create this problem, but now we have a completely ruined Gaza Strip area. And there actually is an opportunity for us to rebuild something that strategically makes sense for all of our allies. I don't know. It's going to be something to watch and to see. But, again, I've never been overtly happy about the whole Gaza Strip. And anytime that you say you don't like something and then you're automatically considered anti-Semitic, if you don't like the COVID vaccine, now they call you anti-vaxxer. And we're going to talk a lot about that here going forward because of The View and what they accuse RFK of. It makes me want to say, then why are you doing this? Because you wouldn't be calling me this if there was common sense involved.
Right. Yeah.
So it really makes me think that.
Yeah, we lump everybody into these buckets. Oh, you didn't get the shot. You're an anti-vaxxer. Well, no, there's
right.
reasons people didn't get it, and they didn't have to get it. Some people, quote unquote, had to get it, but obviously we realized when you backtrack and look at it that wasn't the right thing to do, or wasn't necessarily the case. But yeah, I mean, the United States just. I feel like we're like 20 years behind.
Ohio is 20 years behind, by the way.
Well, that's not a lie.
I'm just kidding. A lot of people in the chats are jazzed up about this one, but yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. We've fallen into these camps where you're one way or the other, kind of like the Kendrick Lamar thing. And I hope you guys are going to talk about this on the sports show coming up today at 12:30. But, I didn't watch the Super Bowl, but I did realize when I was in the airport, every time I walked by a TV monitor or every time I was getting off of an escalator and I could see a TV, it felt like the halftime show was still on. And I remember thinking in my brain, I didn't know what the halftime show was. I couldn't hear it. There was no audio, but I kept thinking, I was like, how long is the entertainment the halftime show, or is it the football game? Because I feel like the football game might be interrupting the halftime show, because this halftime show doesn't seem like it's ever going to end, and neither did the commercials. But I saw very quickly the next day, or even that night, that if you didn't like the Kendrick Lamar Super Bowl, then you were on the wrong side of history. Now, I didn't watch it, so I don't know. But I will tell you this. I don't like Kendrick Lamar's music. So I would not have liked the halftime show. But I didn't like the halftime. There was so many halftime shows that I didn't like. I didn't like the Justin Timberlake halftime show. I think the one time I saw a halftime show and I said this should be the standard was Bruno Mars.
Yeah, I remember that one.
I thought Bruno Mars did a great job. There wasn't any politics. It was fun. There was cameos from people. It was just it was choreographed. It was fantastic. I don't need politics in football. We watch sports or we watch entertainment to get away and to take a break from reality. And so why do they keep bringing reality back into the NFL, back into sports? That's why I don't watch it. I haven't watched football in 5-6 years. I think it's ridiculous. Folk around and find out in the live chat says Brandon Tatum broke down the Kendrick halftime show and I enjoyed his take. I'd be interested to see that. I might have to head over to Brandon Tatum's channel and watch that, because I did not watch the halftime show. And I'm not going to watch it now because of all the controversy behind it. But I do think it's ridiculous that so many people have brought race into it. Like, oh, if you don't like the Kendrick Lamar show, then you are on the wrong side of history, and it's because you're white. Well, right. If there would have been Garth Brooks and he played all of his newer stuff and he didn't play any of the old stuff, the Rodeo or Friends in Low Places or Standing Outside the Fire, any of those things, I probably wouldn't have enjoyed the show. If there was like Rascal Flatts or something like that, I probably wouldn't have enjoyed the show, because there's a lot of newer country that I just cannot stand. It just drives me nuts. Am I racist for not liking white people music, Jason? Why are we not allowed to not like a halftime show?
Again, you get put into a bucket automatically, and we're so divided that if you don't like this halftime show, you're racist, which I think is complete and utter horseshit.
I mean, I don't want to be thinking about pedophiles. Somebody else in the chat's bringing it up that he called Drake a pedophile. Listen, I'm anti-pedophile through and through. My kids wear anti-pedophile shirts from Red Pill Threads almost daily. I think it's hilarious. But I mean, I don't want to be thinking about pedophilia and the problems of pedophilia during the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? If I'm watching,
watch it to get away from all of that stuff.
I want to see Budweiser. I want to have an awesome show. I just want to be entertained. I don't want to think about shit. I don't want, I don't want to have to critically think my way through a halftime show. I want to just be blind, dumb, entertained by these entertainers. Will Cray says, if I remember right, Jay-Z runs the halftime show, so he will only let people who don't have dirt on him play. I mean, again, more drama than it's worth. Put Aerosmith back up there or something stupid. It's like, but I don't know. I think that's where sports, especially football, has gone by the wayside. I can't believe people haven't flocked to rugby because rugby doesn't seem to have any of these issues. It's all about rugby. It's all about the Hakas. It's all about the, it's just, the drama of the game. It doesn't really have so much to do with politics. And I think we need to get back to it, but we're going to get into much more heated politics here in a second when we get on The View. So if the halftime, I want to hear in the chats too, did you, and this is a free space, I'm not going to call you a racist. Give me a one sentence. Did you like the halftime show? Yes or no, and why? And it doesn't have to be a long explanation. It can be like, I like the halftime show because I like Kendrick's music, or I didn't like the halftime show because it was too political, or I didn't understand it, or it just wasn't entertaining. I don't know. I want to know, did you like it and why? Hit me in the chats right now as I go through this. I'm going to do these ad rates, and then I'm going to adjust the chats and what you guys had to say about the halftime show. And then I want to get into the big topic of today, which is Bill Gates predicting or foreshadowing another pandemic. And again, I think this is scary, and I don't know why he said it. I don't know why he said what he said on The View, but he said it, and we're going to talk about it. And I'm going to use it in a Tanstradamus prediction that I will predict will come true around the September of this year. Today's show is brought to you by ghostbed.com. Sleep so good, it's absolutely scary. Valentine's Day is right around the corner. It is not too late. I mean, these beds ship in days. I know people that order a ghost bed 2 days later, it's at their door, but it doesn't matter because you can always show the receipt that you bought the ghost bed. It's Valentine's Day. The two gifts that we have today are Factor Meals and Ghost Bed, which are subscription based. We also have Shield Box, by the way, which is another great subscription plan. I think getting somebody a subscription on Valentine's Day is super special and beneficial because it's a gift that it doesn't just last one day. A ghost bed pillow lasts forever. And every time you lay your significant other's head down on that pillow, they will be thinking about you and how special that pillow was, or that sheet, or that collar, or that massage topper mattress. You will remember how special that was. We also, so head over to ghostbed.com, use the promo code Wolfpack and get you sleep so good it's scary. Also, we have factormeals.com/Wolfpack50 meal planning to the next level. Get lean, get mean. Look, a lot of people were commenting on my pictures of rolling with Mike the Cop, and you guys were saying how lean and mean I look. Thank you so much. And that is because a healthy diet and exercise goes a long way. Meal planning is part of that. Factor Meals is meal planning to the next level. Chef prepared, fresh and never frozen meals delivered right to your door in awesome packaging. We're talking hundreds of different menu items to switch around, move around. Lots of menu items that you can have for lunch and dinner, breakfast and dinner. They have shakes, they have eggs. Somebody just said that they got the Factor Meal egg breakfast eggs, omelet. Said it was one of the best omelets they'd ever had. And they were so shocked and surprised. And I say that with every Factor Meal that I have. If you can get the calorie conscious, you can get the protein heavy. Again, if you forget to update your meal plan because they deliver every week, they'll just deliver you the same thing that you had the following week. So even if it's a no-brainer, it just makes life that much easier. So if you're a first responder and life is confusing and there's a lot of things going on, court cases, legal updates, you've got firearms qualifications. You've got physical training that you have to do. Plus, you have to actually do the job of police. It's easy to let your diet fall by the wayside, but you don't have to do that anymore. Head over to factormeals.com/Wolfpack50. Start your meal plan today. All right, let's go ahead and get into this. So let me go back. Folk Around Find Out says it was dumb. Will Cray says he wants to see a Nickelback halftime show. Loren says, let's see. Let me go back to the top here. They should just do an eating contest for the halftime show. You know, kind of like a 4th of July Joey Chestnut thing. Fair. It was better than years previous. No satanic shit. So that was good. Okay. No satanic shit. That is a plus. And you know, another thing that I had a problem with was that they keep showing Serena Williams crip walking. Like anything gang related to me is disgusting. I think we should put gangs right up there with Nazis. We've shamed Nazis out of existence. Like, why don't we start shaming the gang members out of existence? Like, putting up a crip flag or a blood flag should be just as bad as putting up a Nazi symbol, in my opinion. I mean, at this point, how many people have gang members killed?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Agreement.
So anyway, that's my take on it. David J says, I'll need to start ordering Factor meals come March since I will be on a ship in the yards. There you go. Creed for the halftime show, Tyler S. says. David J also says Serena Williams is Drake's ex-girlfriend. Now, I think Serena Williams has a ghost bed. Can you Google that for me really quick?
I can't.
Serena Williams ghost bed.
I don't know if I think it's Venus.
It is Venus Williams.
I believe.
Just type it in for me really fast. Give me a fact check on that. Serena Williams looks pretty damn good, though. Feel like she looks better now that she's out of sports. But yeah, the crip walk thing was dumb. Yeah,
Venus Williams.
So Venus Williams is the big ghost bed. She's all in on ghost bed. I mean, she loves. I knew it was one of them. They're twins, right?
Yeah, and I hear I hear your advertisements all the time between your show and Drinking Bros, and yeah, they're twins, and I get them mixed up. So
yeah, Venus Williams, big ghost bed. She's got the Venus Williams model ghost bed, which I got to lay on. So basically, I've laid with Venus Williams, technically. No, that's not true. I did not lay with Venus Williams, but I did lay on a Venus Williams ghost bed. So that was pretty cool. It was pretty neat. Jill Billios 007 says, I didn't like the halftime show because I'm racist. I'm just kidding. She didn't say that. She says, I didn't like the halftime show because I just don't really like Kendrick Lamar's music. I like hip hop, but I don't think he's universal or mainstream enough for the halftime show. Fair. I don't really know. I couldn't name you one Kendrick Lamar song. I couldn't name one song. I still can't name you one song that Kendrick Lamar sings. So am I racist? I don't know. All right, let me jump over.
Last week I had to Google who was even doing the halftime show. I didn't even remember them announcing his name, which I know they did. And I was probably like, oh, Kendrick Lamar. Never heard of her. I don't know.
Armory Knight says a halftime show making pedophiles fight animals to the death. I mean, what kind of animals are we talking here?
Gladiators.
Murphy30 says, did anyone catch the Thursday fake news? That was me jumping on for Drinking Bros of the week at the end. Very cool, Murphy30. Very good. I think I'm heading out there to see the Drinking Bros here shortly in the next month or two. So we'll see what's going on. James McGee show, Serena's sister was killed by a crip.
Yeah.
Serena, who?
He actually wants you on his show, by the way.
Who?
James McGee.
James McGee show. Wait, Serena, like Venus was killed by a crip?
No, I think they had another sister.
They did? So then why did she crip walk?
I have no idea.
James, I need more context.
I don't even know what a crip walk
I need more context, James. But yeah, James McGee show, I'll go on there. I'll go on there. Just send me a DM.
Yeah, I'll get you contact. He's a friend of our show.
Good. Yeah, I'd like to go on a show. Oh, by the way, today, 12:30, and I think it goes on at 3:30 live. I will be on One American News Network pushing the book Pig Latin, a seriously funny true story. So a lot of fun. Really excited about going on OAN again. All right, let's get into the big story here. I'm going to play some clips for you guys of this very bizarre interview. I watched the entire interview I think you should just go to YouTube, watch the entire interview. I think it's about 8 or 9 minutes long. But that way you can get the full context. And I again, Fox News, FAWKS News, I'm not about taking things out of context. So you can trust that what I'm about to show you is not out of context. I'm giving you the full context. I'm not nitpicking what this guy says and only giving you the most hyperbolic parts. I don't do that on this show. That's why my clips are a little bit longer. Now it's up to you to listen to the whole thing, because so often we get involved in the news media and then we complain when the news doesn't meet the narrative we wanted to meet. We say, well, they were out of context, and that's not fair. They took it out of context. But then when something it is in our narrative and it's out of context, we're okay with that. But then if you have a fair, unbalanced or a fair and balanced podcast where you share the totality of it, then you accuse of being boring or playing too, like, oh, okay, we get it. We don't need to hear the whole clip. Well, which one is it? Which one is it? Do you want me to be hyperbolic and only pinpoint the snippets that meet a narrative that I'm trying to tell? Or do you want the totality so that you aren't being manipulated by media journalism and you can form your own opinion? Which one do you want? Well, if you're watching this show, I'm going to give you the latter. So here we go. Pay attention to what he's saying, and maybe you'll learn something.
Today's tech billionaires are shifting rightward and seem to have more power than even the VP, whose name I can't remember.
Now, let me just stop there because I want to interrupt this. So she says that the tech billionaires are more powerful now than they've ever been, and they're more right-leaning than they've ever been. Is that fair to say that that's what she's trying to say here? Do I need to play it again?
That's the way I take it.
That's the way I take it. And of course she says the VP, which I don't even know his name. You are a political news show on The View. Don't you think that you probably should know who the VP? How can you give me information about politics if you don't even know who the players are? Now,
that's just a blatant disrespectful, because she didn't win. You know, she didn't get her.
Well, that's
way.
all they do. You're exactly right. That is what The View does. That's why they have the ratings that they do. It's because they spend more time trying to make these cutesy little snippets. And it's funny because when they make the cutesy little snippet, as if they think that they're getting away with it, and I'm going to show you another example of that, but they look at the camera as in like they're saying, make that a reel. Make that a reel. Which
can you imagine the blow up?
A reel.
Had a guest come on and said, well, I don't remember Joe Biden's vice president's name. Could you imagine the absolute blow up?
It would be ridiculous.
Yes.
So, but I have to pause it here again, not to take her out of context, but I want to tell her that she's starting this off by notifying her audience that the billionaires have gone right leaning and that they have more power now. By the way, Kamala Harris, the fact is Kamala Harris had 86 billionaires backing her versus Trump's 52 billionaires. Mm-hmm. The billionaires that she had are pretty damn powerful. If you ask me, I mean, how many billionaires are as influential as George Soros? Ring a bell? Right. Or how about Bill Gates? Or how about Sam Bankman-Fried? Or how about Warren Buffett? Or how about Steven Spielberg? I mean, there's 86. What is she talking about that we have that the right is nothing but a big billionaires that have taken over? Like, are you joking right now? You have almost twice as many billionaires backing Kamala Harris or backed Kamala Harris than Donald Trump had. And you arguably have some of the bigger name billionaires out there. If you start reading off the list of Trump billionaires, you'll never have heard of them. But every sixth or seventh billionaire on the list for Kamala Harris or for the left is a name that you would be like, oh yeah, I've heard of that guy. Oh yeah, like half of the big owners of Facebook all back Kamala Harris in the big social media platforms. Just because they lost Zuckerberg, I mean, they lost all the other ones. So I think just starting off the bat, I thought that was really funny, and I was like, wait a minute, what? Like. And they all laugh.
Well, there's no club of these people where it's, kind of individual. And, I'm very focused on global health and, hope the transition to this administration doesn't interrupt some incredible work that's been going on.
Well, they had some VIP seating at the inauguration, and we did notice you weren't there. What do you make of that visual?
They clearly wanted to fund the inauguration. They wanted it to be a great inauguration, just for the good of the country, no doubt.
Maybe because we all know that Bill Gates and Melinda Gates are extremely evil and corrupt people, or at least that is the perception on the majority of Americans. I mean, this is a guy that invented Microsoft, that invented these computer programs, and then invented viruses, that he then invented the cure to the virus. And now he's involved in vaccines. It doesn't take much. You don't have to be a conspiracy theorist to say that doesn't add up. That doesn't make sense. A guy that runs Microsoft computers invents a virus and then invents the cure to the virus that everybody has to then buy the cure to the virus, is now in charge of vaccines, and then predicts something like Event 201 with the Johns Hopkins centers. And then 2 years later, the exact thing that he predicts at Event 201 that he is the main funder of, that he's the main investor of in the vaccines, happens, and he leads the charge on the vaccines and openly admits to that. And these folks applaud him. And you're going to see that later on in this interview. Let me play this next clip.
It's abroad, quote, insane, along with another word we can't repeat here. But what's your take on his political access and influence here in America right now?
Well, Elon, his private sector work, has been very innovative, really fantastic. A lot of private sector people, when they get into government, they don't take the time necessarily to see what the good work is or why it's structured the way it is. So I'm a little worried, particularly with this USAID stuff. My foundation partners with USAID on,
which is a big reason why the USAID should be investigated, because guys like you are partnered with them.
Along with another word we can't repeat here. But what's your take on his political access and influence here in America right now?
Well, Elon, his private sector work, what the good work is or why it's structured the way it is. So I'm a little worried, particularly with this USAID stuff. My foundation partners with USAID on nutrition and getting vaccines out. And, there's incredible people, they're not actually worms that work there. So, hopefully we'll get some of that work back in shape. In fact, if we don't, you could have literally millions of deaths. So,
whoa, there it is. Did you catch it?
Yep.
Like, I mean, to me, it sounds like a threat. It's like, hopefully we'll get these things back in order. If not, huh?
I said, when you sent that to me, that's exactly what I thought as I was watching it.
I'm going to play it one more time.
Back in shape. In fact, if we don't, you could have literally millions of deaths. So, with aid, people think, wow, how much do we give these countries? We had a very good conversation.
Let me play this. Let me play the last part of this.
World, I think a lot of people don't recognize.
And by the way, they're the biggest funders of vaccines. The vaccine schedule from the 80s and the 90s jumped up hundreds of percents, 200+%. We went from 7 scheduled vaccines all the way to 80 plus. I think we're at like 86 on the vaccine schedule last time that we looked at this, the vaccine schedule. And he's even going to mention here in just a second that they're pushing for more vaccines. But now we have autism up hundreds of percents, 200+%. We have allergies that are never seen before. Allergies. Kids are being born with peanut allergies, and they didn't start having peanut allergies until guess what? Until we started having these ridiculous vaccine schedules. We have blindness going on, which, by the way, my wife, when we had one of our children, we home birthed a lot of our children, but A few of them were born in the hospital, and she opted out of a few of the vaccines. And when the doctor came in, he says, "Why did you want to opt out of this?" And she says, "Because there's 1 in 3,000 chances that my child will suffer from partial blindness or have that one of the big side effects is that you have nearsighted blindness." And he was like, "Oh, that's a myth." And she's like, "Oh, because that's actually coming from the CDC and their report." And he read it and he was like completely shocked and flummoxed that he was like, I had no idea. So, how many people out there have children who have vaccine injuries that they just don't even know that they are suffering because of vaccine injuries? And here they are still trying to push things. And I can't stress this enough. Like, you as a parent have to stop trusting the government and these vaccine schedules and start reading. Like, are the chances of your child getting this disease 1 in 3,000? Is it really worth it? Is it really like, the chances of getting this disease is 1 in 4 million, but the chances of him suffering from nearsighted blindness is 1 in 3,000. You should be able to make an educated guess on whether you want your kid to have that vaccine or not.
Right. And leave it to Ashley to educate a doctor. I love it. I absolutely love it.
Oh, yeah, she's literally by far one of the smartest people. Just because she reads, and I mean, it's just like she just reads and then she asks questions. That's all she does. It's not like she's trying to tell anybody. She's like trying to ask the questions. Like, hey, and she asked several doctors before we went in there. I mean, my wife takes being a mother very seriously, and of course, she does a lot of things homeopathic, and again, we do home births and all sorts of other, kind of hippie-ish style parenting techniques, but she doesn't do any of that without first educating herself.
Mm-hmm.
We're not anti going to the doctor. If there are some things that homeopathic remedies aren't good for, and there are things that you need to get from a doctor. There are, obviously broken bones and surgeries and things like that, but there are other things that we like to question. Fluoride, for example. Some of the things that dentists do that they cause problems to make you have to go back to the dentist. There are certain procedures that they do to children and do to children's teeth, knowing that they're going to lose those teeth anyway, and that they would be better off building their immunity, and it would be better off for them to lose those teeth naturally the way that they are, rather than putting ridiculous metals in their mouth. But some of them are rotting things that can lead to other things. So it's not a one. It's a gray area the entire time. It's researching each individual problem and coming up with an individual solution. There's no one blanketed rule of thumb when it comes to the way that we do things. But everybody wants to, like you said earlier, they want to pigeonhole you. Like, oh, well, you're anti-vax or you're anti-doctor. No, we're not anti-doctor. We're just anti some of the things that doctors do. We're anti some of the, I mean, we still go to the dentist. My kids get regular dentist checkups. There's a lot of backyard. We have. Let me finish playing this because I think this is very interesting. Bite the bullet. Bite this bootstrap.
That and it was key to developing the COVID vaccine. That has made you.
They say that as it's a good thing. I want to play this again. Again, they're saying that like as if the COVID vaccine works, which we know it doesn't. So again, gaslighting by the left at an all-time crazy rapid fire hose of information rate. Here's this gaslighting. Like you should be proud of the vaccine that doesn't work at all. They literally has been proven not to have done anything except cause more harm than it has good.
I think a lot of people don't recognize that. And it was key to developing the COVID vaccine. That has made you, unfortunately, a target of all kinds of baseless conspiracies,
Are they baseless?
Including from RFK Jr., who apparently does have a worm in his brain.
There he is. You hear it? There's that little snippet. Well, this thing does have a worm in his brain. Mm-hmm. Here,
from RFK Jr., who apparently does have a worm in his brain. And he now claims he is not anti-vax. Do you believe him?
So, we talked about this on the show in depth. RFK Jr. was never anti-vax. He was actually worked on a lot of vaccine stuff and legislation and all sorts of stuff. And we're not anti-vax. My family, we're not anti-vax. We're anti a lot of vaccines. There are a lot of vaccines that are being put out there that you have no business putting in your child. Your child's never going to suffer those those illnesses. There's not even a chance of them getting it, but the side effects are a laundry list long, and you're still allowing your kid or convincing your kid to, or allowing doctors to just tell you with just blindly following these doctors and getting your kids these vaccinations. And it needs to stop. Like, you need to look at the vaccine schedule and then really say, if your kid doesn't really absolutely need that vaccine, then don't put it in their body. Also, all the metals that are being put into the body. But she calls it a baseless conspiracy theory. They're not baseless anymore, sweetheart. Sweetheart. They're not baseless anymore. So why are you even putting it out there to your constituents? They're not baseless conspiracies anymore. We know that this was a government-created pandemic. We know that it was a pandemic created in China that was used through gain-of-function research that Fauci was absolutely involved in through Chapel Hill, North Carolina, backdooring all sorts of illegal and crazy stuff. Not only was he doing that, but he was also making and creating transgender monkeys for study.
Well, we'll do our best to work with him. Under his management is going to be the FDA, which is a fantastic regulator, passing judgment on a lot of the new innovations we're funding. NIH does fantastic research.
Yeah.
And so those have been partners of our foundation. And, I hope the great scientists there get the support they deserve.
And just to follow up, before COVID, you say you spent the most sleepless nights worrying about pandemics.
Pay attention.
After COVID, has that changed? And if it has, what keeps you up now? Because we all need to know.
Yeah, the pandemic, sadly, was fairly predictable, and it won't be the last pandemic. The next one could be far more severe. I mean, this one, it killed millions. It was awful. We got the vaccine. Actually, President Trump's leadership
as if
was
that was a good thing.
Getting that out quickly,
and so which we know it did.
When I spoke to him, I said, "Okay, here's some other medical innovations, including a thing called an HIV cure that could be accelerated." So, we should be more prepared, both for a pandemic. I'd say that's still number one. You can worry about nuclear war. You can worry about AI.
This
there's
sounds like fun.
plenty to worry about. But
do you
overall,
sleep
I'm
at
an
all?
optimist.
Okay.
No, I mean,
He's going to be
it's up to the government to think ahead on behalf of the citizens.
Yes.
So, pandemic, there's a lot that we should be doing that hopefully we'll get our act together before the next one comes. Overall, the innovation in health, both in the developing countries, the rich world, I love being part of that.
I was reading, though, that you said the next pandemic you are predicting within maybe 25 years. Is that
certainly
accurate?
we'll have.
Which, by the way, predicting anything in 25 years is not a prediction. Like, 100% there's going to be a pandemic in 25 years. 100% there's going to be a major earthquake in 25 years. 100% that records will be broken hot versus cold in 25 years. Like, predicting a 25-year prediction is ridiculous. That would be like saying, like, my son is going to get a splinter in the next 25 years. And then it happens, and then you're like, oh my God, Eric predicted this. He predicted a splinter. 25 years is a ridiculous prediction. But pay attention, because this next prediction is pretty dialed in. Here it comes.
One in the next 25 years. There's even some pathogens out there that we're watching over right now. So maybe 10% chance in the next 4 years.
Yeah.
What? Why did he say that? Why did he say why? Like, they didn't ask him. They didn't ask him any of this information. That's why he said, like, do you not think about this before you go on the podcast? Why would you say a 10% chance of 4 years? Like, why wouldn't you say there's a 30% chance, or why a 12% chance in 10 years or 5 years? Or why did he choose 4 years when we have 4 years of a president, when we know that 2 years, like right when Donald Trump gets into office, 2 years, he says, they have event 201 to predict COVID, and 2 years later we get hit with COVID right at the next election cycle. And now, by the way, we have a new Project 201 being presented by old Bill Gates here, and it is called SEERS, SEERS. And guess what it's called? Sears what? What do you think? Now, this was 2 years ago that they came up with this pandemic, or they started to plan this pandemic almost 2 years ago. What started 2 years ago? Who said that they were going to run for president starting 2 years ago?
Isn't that amazing?
Donald Trump. So
Yeah,
Donald Trump says he's going to start running for president. They start this new study project called Sears 2025. That is the new Project 201. By the way, if you haven't read Project 201, go and read it. It's very short and easy, but it'll give you chills because it definitely predicts 100% the COVID pandemic. But now we have the Sears 2025, which stands for Severe Epidemic Respiratory Syndrome, which everybody having right now, respiratory illnesses right now, this big giant flu that's going around right now, Sears 2025. But then they made a video, and the video I'm not going to play it here. It's too long, but it's called Catastrophic Contagion. So go watch the YouTube video created by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, but it is called Catastrophic Contagion, and it is a fictitious event that happens in September of 2025, where a new pandemic globally stretches, and how they plan on dealing with it very, very similar to Project 201. So Project 201 predicted a COVID virus. 2 years later, COVID virus happened. Sears 2025 was a plan that went into effect starting 2 years ago, and now it was predicted that it would start in September 2025. So there's my Tanstradamus prediction, and why I think that you should pay attention to stuff like this, because I think at this point they have all this information in their head and they just drop crumbs on accident. He didn't just accidentally come up with dropping 4 years ago. It's because they're planning. It's a Freudian slip. It's because they have been talking about a pandemic that's going to happen in the next 4 years. They're planning on a pandemic to happen in the next 4 years. And that's why he said there's a 10% chance that we're going to have a pandemic in the next 4 years. Final thoughts.
This guy is, he's a piece of work, that's for sure. And the fact that the way he was talking, like, we're going to try to work with RFK Jr., he's not going to try to work with him. They hate each other. They don't agree with each other. And to your point, Gates has an ulterior motive. So why would he even try to get in bed with him? It's just not going to work. It's not going to happen. But it's scary. You bring very, very valid points up, and it's, the fact that they're controlling us. That's all they're doing.
Yep. It's exciting to see what's going on. The reason why today's show is so important to you to just mark it on your calendar is because a lot of these things are going to get exposed, and I think Bill Gates is going to have a lot of problems. Bill Gates is the first time he ever went on The View. Why is Bill Gates, somebody like Bill Gates, why is he going on to The View? What point is he trying to get right? Like he works with publicists, and he says, this is my agenda and I need to get out. It's like my book deal. I'm working with a marketing team on what are the best shows to get me on 90 days on my 90-day book tour. What are the most influential? What's going to cover my base and what's going to get that agenda out there? That's why I'm going on One American News Network, because we have an agenda. So his publicist is like, listen, we have to get this information. He didn't just go on The View because he was bored. And he has an agenda. He needs to get something out. And that's why this publicist lined him up getting on The View. And what he wanted to get out, what he talked about the most in this View was, he mentioned over and over again in this 8 minutes. I implore you to watch the whole 8 minutes. All he talks about are vaccines, the importance of vaccines, and the importance of the continuing of his study in pandemic relief around the country. And of course, this Sears 2025, these are all things that he's bringing up. So he came on that show just to bring awareness to his programs and his Bill and Melinda way, because he knows that they're going to, and it's either for two things. Either he knows he's fucked, and he knows that they're coming after him, and that it's going to be an end to his corrupt and diabolical, evil World Health Organization money grab takeover on public health is coming to an end, or that he wants to get out that, he wants to foreshadow that, hey, there could be another pandemic coming, and so you should trust me and believe me. And so when it happens, you're already kind of pre-programmed to believe and trust this weasel or worm, as they were calling their other people. And by the way, making fun of worms and brains is ridiculous, because we know that people have parasites and worms in their brains and all in the rest of their bodies. That's not a conspiracy theory. That's real. The parasite with the whole cat piss thing, that's real deal shit. Like, it's been proven. So you're the ones that look like idiots when you're laughing and joking about something as serious as worms in their brains, because now you're making people think that they don't have worms in their brains when they probably do. And there are a lot of natural remedies that can relieve those worms, by the way.
Homeopathic.
Did you know that?
I did not.
Are you familiar? You didn't know that people have parasites in their brains?
No, I get that. I didn't know there was homeopathic.
Joe Rogan did an entire episode about it. It'll blow your mind what kind of stuff you have inside your body and what kind of worms and parasites that you do have in your brain.
I'll have to look into it a little bit more. I mean, I knew about it, but I'm not super versed in it.
We'll maybe we should do an episode sometime about it. We'll get. There's actually I actually know an expert that works in the field, and she's big into taking. I forgot the powder that you take. I actually took it after a Patreon interview that I did with her, and I actually expelled a whole bunch of worms out of my ass after I took a big giant poop. Yeah, it's just a white powder that you take. It cleans out all these worms. You'll shit them all out. They all die. Nice. Anyway, guys, this has been a fun show. You guys are hitting up with sports right after this, correct?
I believe so. I'm waiting to hear from John. He had a small issue. But we will.
Okay. Well, we'll look forward to seeing you guys' news. And we'll have some more news starting next week. And we got some big thing coming down the pipeline. Follow me on social media. Go and pre-order the book Pig Latin, a seriously funny true story if you haven't already done so. Really trying to make it on the charts. I have less than 1,000 books to sell, and I will be beating out somebody like Scottie Pippen in pre-sales. So I need every single person. I really want to just say, like, I sold more pre-sale books than Scottie Pippen. I just think that would be fun to say, since I have a Scottie Pippen card in a piece of plastic that I hold dear to my heart. So please go and pre-order the book Pig Latin, a seriously funny true story. G.I. Joe says the best. Maybe you didn't know about Bill Gates' warning of the next pandemic, but now you do know, and knowing is always half the battle. Until next time, cheers.